Someone out there cannot stop thinking about you, and that is not a coincidence. The thoughts are not random. The connection is not imaginary. There is a reason this person keeps returning to your mind, and it runs far deeper than loneliness, boredom, or emotional weakness. Something real is keeping this bond alive inside you. Pay attention to that. This person appears without invitation. They come during quiet moments when the world goes still and your mind finally exhales. They surface in the small gaps between thoughts, in those weightless seconds just before sleep when every defense drops away. Sometimes they arrive without warning in the middle of a perfectly ordinary day. You could be laughing, working, talking to someone else, feeling completely settled, and suddenly their face rises in your mind. Their voice, their smile, a memory attached to them appears without effort, without force, without explanation. You may have tried pushing these thoughts aside. You may have told yourself that moving forward is the right thing to do, that revisiting them no longer serves you. You may have reminded yourself of the confusion, the silence, the distance that exists between you. There may have been moments when you questioned everything. Moments when you asked yourself whether you are holding on to something that was never truly there, whether hope has replaced honesty, whether the whole thing exists only inside your own head. Yet no matter how firmly you decide to be done, they return. Even when you feel steady, even when you feel free, they remain quietly present somewhere inside you. This is not a flaw. This is not evidence of weakness or desperation. It is not proof that you are unable to move on. It means there is a bond between you that has never fully resolved. It means something emotional still exists whether or not a single word has ever given it shape. Connections like this do not obey logic. They are not built by decision or dismantled by willpower. They form at a deeper level where emotion, memory, and meaning converge. When someone continues arriving in your thoughts without effort or invitation, it usually signals unfinished emotional energy between you. Something was felt deeply, even if it was never spoken aloud. Something was genuinely shared, even if it was never clearly named. This person may be thinking of you right now, even without reaching out, even without saying a word to anyone. Thoughts do not always travel through language. Feelings do not always reveal themselves through action. Some people carry emotion silently, unsure of what to do with it, unsure how to move. They may feel afraid, overwhelmed, or deeply uncertain. They may not know how to act on what they feel, so they hold it quietly inside themselves. But silence does not equal emptiness. You may sense them at unexpected moments, a sudden wave of warmth, a quiet sadness without any obvious cause, a feeling of closeness that arrives without explanation. This is not imagination running loose. Strong emotional connections operate beneath the surface, beneath logic, beneath the clean lines of reason. They do not follow timelines or clear rules. They exist quietly, shaping thoughts and emotions in ways that resist simple explanation. You are not weak for feeling this. You are human. Caring deeply does not vanish simply because you decide it should. The heart does not move on because the mind issues an instruction. When something meaningful has reached you, it leaves a mark. That mark remains until it has been fully understood, fully healed, or fully transformed into something else. This connection does not mean you must wait without end or set aside your own needs. It simply confirms that what you felt was real. It confirms that the bond had weight. Confusion does not cancel love. Silence does not erase emotion. Distance does not always mean the feeling has died. Sometimes distance signals fear. Sometimes it signals uncertainty. Sometimes it signals an internal struggle happening on the other side of the quiet. You may never receive the clear answers you want. Or one day you might. Either way, your experience carries validity. Your thoughts are not random noise. Your emotions are not meaningless static. They are part of a story that touched something real inside you. If this person continues living in your mind, it is because something between you has never fully closed. That does not mean it must stay open forever. It simply means it mattered. And things that truly matter take time to settle inside the heart. Be gentle with yourself. Do not punish your thoughts or rush your emotions towards some imagined deadline. Understanding usually arrives slowly, and sometimes the purpose of a connection is not permanence but transformation. to change you, to teach you something you could not have learned alone, to remind you how fully and completely you are capable of feeling, even within confusion, even within silence. That connection holds meaning. When someone occupies your thoughts this deeply and this consistently, it usually means the emotional cord between you is still alive. Even if you no longer speak, even if circumstances pulled you in opposite directions, even if the silence has stretched far longer than either of you ever expected, your mind is not simply clinging to the past. Your heart is responding to something that never reached its natural ending. Human beings are not disturbed by what feels complete. We are disturbed by what remains open, unresolved, and emotionally suspended. You may notice that when something good happens, they are the first person you want to tell. When you experience a small victory, a beautiful moment, or something that makes you laugh, they arrive in your mind as the one you want to share it with. You imagine telling them small details that seem unimportant to anyone else but feel significant to you. You wonder about their inner state, even when your own life is full. Sometimes the pull you feel is not simply toward their physical presence. It is toward their energy, their emotional world, something invisible that connects you. This kind of pull happens when two people are attuned to the same emotional frequency, even across distance, even across silence. What most people miss is that emotional bonds do not dissolve simply because communication stops. Silence does not erase connection. Distance does not cancel deep attachment. When two people have genuinely connected, that bond leaves an imprint on something beneath conscious thought. That deeper layer does not operate on logic or time. It operates on meaning, on emotion, on unfinished things. If you are still thinking about them, some part of you understands that the story has not finished being written. This also explains why the connection feels layered and complicated. Love that is simple usually finds its way to clarity. Love that feels distant, confusing, or delayed often lives in the narrow space between fear and genuine desire. One or both of you may be afraid of vulnerability, afraid of change, afraid of repeating old pain, afraid of wanting something that feels uncertain or just beyond reach. Fear does not destroy love. It delays it. It buries it. It creates distance precisely where closeness is wanted most, but feels too risky to pursue. You may wonder why, if they love you, they have not moved, why they have not reached out, why they remain quiet. Love does not always travel in a straight line. Many people feel deeply but cannot translate feeling into action. Some are emotionally guarded, some carry wounds that were never tended, some are caught between responsibility and what they truly want. Some feel unworthy of the love they feel rising inside them, and some believe they must repair themselves before they deserve to move closer to anyone. The mind returns repeatedly to what the heart cannot resolve. This is why they appear when you grow quiet, when distraction fades, when your emotional guard finally relaxes. At night, when noise disappears, the unconscious speaks more plainly. During the day, when your defenses soften, the same thing happens. You are not forcing these thoughts. They arrive uninvited. That matters. Thoughts that come without being summoned usually emerge from deeper emotional layers than the ones you consciously manage. There is something else happening beneath all of it. When you think of them, you are not only thinking about who they are as a person, you are also thinking about who you were when you were connected. Certain people awaken parts of us that remain dormant with everyone else. They reflect something back that feels familiar, alive and deeply meaningful. Losing access to that reflection can feel like losing a piece of yourself. This is why the longing cuts deeper than simple attraction ever could. Distance between two people who genuinely care for each other often exists not because love is absent, but because timing, fear, or internal conflict stands between them. You may sense that something is holding both of you back simultaneously. That sense is usually accurate. When emotions remain active without reaching resolution, the psyche keeps the connection alive until understanding or closure finally arrives. You may also experience emotional fluctuation. One day you feel grounded and free. The next day a small detail returns and pulls everything back to the surface. This is completely normal. It means your conscious mind is attempting to protect you while your emotional mind remains tethered. These two parts rarely agree with each other. Healing does not mean forcing yourself to forget. It means understanding why the bond exists and what it is genuinely asking of you. Sometimes a connection persists because there is a lesson still waiting. Sometimes because something was never fully communicated. Sometimes because both people are slowly arriving at the same emotional truth, even when they are not ready at identical moments. Emotional timing is almost never perfectly synchronized. If you sense that they love you but remain at a distance, they are likely fighting something internal. They may feel the exact same pull you feel. They may wonder whether you still care. They may think of you far more than you realize, but instead of stepping closer, they hesitate. That hesitation usually grows from fear of loss, fear of rejection, or fear of what closeness would require them to change in their current life. Love does not always announce itself loudly or boldly. Sometimes it conceals itself in silence. Sometimes it waits behind caution, watching quietly for the moment that feels safe enough to reveal itself. The absence of action is not always the absence of feeling. What matters most right now is not controlling the outcome. It is understanding what this connection is revealing about who you are. It may be teaching you patience. It may be teaching you self-worth. It may be asking you to release the need to chase and begin trusting instead. It may be preparing you to finally receive clarity. Whether that clarity arrives through reunion or through release, you are not foolish for feeling this. You are not weak for thinking about them. You are responding to a bond that exists beyond surface-level reasoning. The mind tries to explain it away. The heart recognizes it the instant it surfaces. When something truly matters, it does not dissolve easily. If they love you and the distance remains, then time and inner growth are doing quiet, important work that neither of you can fully see yet. Connections carrying this kind of depth move slowly precisely because of that depth. Depth requires readiness, and readiness absolutely cannot be rushed. For now, allow thoughts to pass without judgment. Do not force meanings onto them. Do not dismiss them either. Notice how you feel when they appear. Calm, warmth, sadness, longing, hope. Each carries information. Your emotions are communicating something. Listen without demanding immediate answers. What is meant for you does not require constant struggle. It may require patience, but it will never ask you to completely abandon yourself in the process. Whether this connection grows into something tangible or gradually softens and fades, it is shaping you in ways you cannot fully see yet. And if the distance one day closes, it will be because both of you finally became ready to meet without the weight of fear standing between you. Until that moment arrives, trust that what you are experiencing holds genuine meaning, even when that meaning remains unclear. When you think of someone again and again, when they occupy your mind from the first waking moment until the last, there is often a quiet, invisible connection happening far beneath the visible surface. Many times they are thinking of you too, even without saying so, even without fully acknowledging it to themselves. Yes, they love you, even if those exact words have never been spoken aloud. Love does not always arrive dressed in obvious ways. It does not always present as bold moves, clear signals, or confident actions. Sometimes love reveals itself through silence, through waiting, through restraint. The person you cannot stop thinking about may carry a love for you that feels enormous, heavy, and relentlessly constant. But love and readiness are not the same thing. Someone can love you completely and still be unable to step forward. They may feel unworthy, as though you are too good or too whole for what they currently are. They may fear hurting you precisely because they understand how precious the connection feels. They may believe the timing is genuinely wrong, that life is too tangled right now, that circumstances are misaligned. They may be carrying wounds that were never healed, old pain from past relationships, disappointments, betrayals, quiet losses that still live somewhere inside them. They may fear that stepping closer risks losing you entirely. So instead of moving toward you, they pause. Instead of reaching out, they hesitate. Instead of naming what they feel, they hold it privately inside. Not because the feeling is small, because it is enormous. When emotions are shallow, people act carelessly. When feelings are light, people take risks without much thought. But when love is genuine, when it touches something irreplaceable, people grow careful. Fear begins whispering questions. Fear begins quietly shaping every choice they make. When love is casual, people move without thinking twice. They reach out freely. They speak without anxiety. They step forward without calculating consequences. But when love feels significant, when it feels like it could genuinely change everything, people slow down. They become aware of what is truly at stake. They begin thinking about impact and responsibility. They start considering what could go terribly wrong. They protect not only themselves but the other person too. Many people struggle to understand why distance can exist even when love is undeniably present. That distance is not born from a lack of emotion. It is born from internal conflict. On one side of their heart, they feel you powerfully, your presence, your energy, your importance in their world. On the other side, they feel pressure, fear, doubt, and the weight of responsibility. These two forces pull against each other, creating ongoing tension and profound confusion inside them. They may ask themselves the same painful questions over and over again. What if I cannot give them what they genuinely deserve? What if I disappoint them in the worst possible way? What if I damage something beautiful and irreplaceable? What if I am not healed enough yet to do this well? What if my unresolved past follows me directly into this connection? What if closeness creates more complications instead of relief? What if I completely lose control of my own emotions? What if I lose them forever because I tried? These questions do not reflect indifference. They reflect deep caring. They reflect an understanding that love carries real weight. So they choose distance as protection. Not protection from you, but protection from their own overwhelming emotions. They pull back not because they want less of you, but because they want so much of you that it frightens them completely. Sometimes distance is the only tool they have for managing feelings that feel far too large to hold safely. They may not have learned how to love without losing themselves. They may not trust themselves with something that matters this much. They may genuinely believe that staying silent is less dangerous than speaking and risking the entire thing. Silence feels manageable. Vulnerability does not. Distance feels controlled. Closeness does not. This kind of love is deeply disorienting for the person waiting on the other side. It can make you question your own perception. It can make you doubt whether any of it is real. But real love does not always present itself perfectly. Sometimes it arrives fractured, hesitant, and quietly terrified. Sometimes it hides behind reasonable explanations and careful logic. Sometimes it chooses to wait rather than to act. The person who loves you deeply but stays distant often experiences an internal battle every single day. They think of you when they wake and when they fall asleep. Your name moves through their mind in quiet moments. They replay conversations. They imagine different versions of what could exist between you, and then fear reclaims them again. This cycle can exhaust them profoundly, even if you never witness a single moment of it. They may believe they must fix themselves before they can bring love to you responsibly. They may feel they need to become stronger or more stable first. They may be convinced you deserve someone more completely prepared for this. So they step aside, hoping that distance somehow protects you both simultaneously. But love that is suppressed does not disappear. It remains. It grows silently. It waits patiently. And even in total silence, it continues existing. Even across great distance, it stays present and alive. Love does not always wear the face of pursuit. Sometimes it wears the face of restraint. Sometimes it looks like someone fighting their own fears every single day while still holding you carefully in their heart. If you sense this unspoken bond, if you feel this invisible connection running beneath everything, it is not imagination. Deep emotional connections exist beyond words and visible actions. They are felt through energy, through thought, through something that functions like intuition. While distance is painful, it does not always signal the absence of love. Sometimes it signals the opposite entirely. Sometimes it means love is powerfully present but courage has not yet caught up to it. Over time, internal conflicts can lose their grip. Fear can soften its hold. Old wounds can quietly begin their healing. When that shift happens, the distance between you may gradually close. But even if it does not, the truth is unchanged. Love is genuinely complex. It does not obey simple rules. It does not always travel in straight lines. Sometimes it pauses, watches, and waits for the moment when moving forward finally feels safe enough. Distance becomes their quiet method of staying connected without risking emotional collapse. Pulling back feels safer to them than moving forward when emotions reach a certain unbearable intensity. It is not that they do not care. It is that caring this much feels genuinely dangerous to them right now. So distance becomes their shield, their way of breathing without losing all control. But for you that distance lands sharp and heavy. You feel the gap with an intensity that others rarely understand. And there is a specific reason for that. You are sensitive to emotional movement. You do not only notice presence, you notice absence. You do not simply register silence. You feel it. You feel it in your chest, in your persistent thoughts, in the quiet moments when your mind keeps circling back to the same person. That is why the distance hurts you with a depth that seems disproportionate. You feel the instant they withdraw. You sense when something important goes unspoken. You notice when warmth becomes careful distance, when connection hangs suspended between you without resolution. And in those moments you may wonder why love has to feel this heavy, this confusing, this endlessly unresolved. But there is something crucial to understand. The strongest connections often move through the longest silences, not because they are fragile or broken, because they are unfinished. Some bonds are simply too deep to end quickly or cleanly. They do not conclude with neat edges, they linger, they stretch across time and quiet, asking for understanding rather than answers. The space between you does not mean the connection has disappeared. It means something within it is still being shaped. There is something between you that does not depend on constant communication to stay alive. There is an unspoken bond that exists entirely beyond messages, calls, and explanations. That is why a random song can instantly return them to your mind. That is why hearing their name can immediately stir something inside you. That is why familiar places, old memories, or even tiny unremarkable details can pull you straight back to them without any warning. You feel them even without their physical presence. You sense their struggle without needing evidence to justify it. You receive emotional signals that others around you would never notice. You simply know. This is emotional resonance. Emotional resonance does not disappear when two people stop speaking. It does not fade as time accumulates. It remains quiet, patient, and alive somewhere beneath the surface. It waits. It waits because the door between you was never fully shut. If this person had truly stopped caring, your presence would gradually fade from their inner world. But it has not faded. You still exist there. They still think of you during quiet moments when nothing else demands their attention. They still wonder how you are. They still revisit conversations, turning over words and pauses and silences, imagining what might have been said differently. They have not moved on entirely because their heart never found closure, and neither has yours. This unfinished feeling is precisely what makes everything so difficult to carry. It is what keeps you emotionally alert and aware. It is what makes the distance feel heavy rather than simply empty. It is what makes silence feel louder than noise. When a connection ends without clarity, the mind searches persistently for meaning. The heart searches for resolution. When neither arrives, emotions stay active, quietly waiting for the understanding they need. The real reason timing feels wrong has nothing to do with fate being deliberately cruel or love being fundamentally unfair. Timing is not about dates on a calendar, it is about alignment. It is about emotional readiness. Right now, one or both of you may be moving through a season of healing, learning boundaries that were never properly taught, growing emotionally in ways that are invisible from the outside, but absolutely essential for what comes next.